Ladies and gentlemen, that was the musical stylings of Aaron Bates. Thanks for being with us tonight, Aaron. And thank you all for watching with us tonight. Whether you're joining us in our Zoom meeting or on our Facebook live stream, it is Thursday, May 7th, 7:30 p.m. EST. Or is that EDT? I can never, what's the difference? It would help if somebody was standing there. Moving on. If you're new to True Theater, you may be wondering what it is you're in for tonight. My friend Jeff Groh and I started True Theater 10 years ago in the underground space at the No Theater of Cincinnati, inviting people from all walks of life to share their stories based on the theme of the evening. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we have been producing quarterly storytelling events ever since. When we started our 10th season this year, 10 seasons, we couldn't believe that we had gone so far. We also weren't prepared for the fact that we may not finish the 10th season live and in person. When everything started to go down in mid-March, we regrouped and figured out how we can pull this off online, and we are thrilled to be able to bring it to you tonight. The theme is fakes and the stories are true. And we've got 5 people ready to tell you their stories. First, of course, folks, we know that a lot of you out there are considered essential and out doing your jobs every day, and we just want to say an extra special thanks to you for doing them. And we know too, unfortunately, a lot of you were considered unessential and are not currently working or furloughed, and we're thinking of you. It's a tough time for everybody, and I think I speak for us all when we say we can't wait for things to get back to some semblance of normality. We hope tonight that by providing this event, people will be able to feel the connection that we feel even when we're doing the stories in person. Through the rehearsals we've had and what we went through last night with our last rehearsal, I really feel that this is going to be a great time for everybody. We're so appreciative to have you here tonight. I need to thank a couple people behind the scenes. This whole thing came together because our production manager, Annette Ucci, who's calling all the cues tonight, and our good friend Jackson Short, who's running this whole thing like a multi-camera TV station director, was able to pull it all off, with Patrick Ramelli on slides and Aaron Bates on guitar, and Ramona Toussaint will be joining me to co-MC the evening later on. We couldn't be more ready, I think, to deliver to you a great evening. I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything. We're going to be talking about our upcoming shows and whether or not they're going to happen a little bit later. I just wanted to mention too that this is free, and we're thrilled to be able to provide it for you as such. It is also true that we don't have zero expenses, and so we created an opportunity for people to text donations if they wanted. We're started a 10 for 10 campaign, $10 from people to help us celebrate our 10th year. No pressure. I'd rather you hear the stories than be turned off by the ask of a donation. Please stick around. But all you have to do is text TRUE10, that's TRUE10, to the number 44321. Couldn't be easier. You'll get some options there to donate 10 or more dollars if you choose. And it's self-explanatory. That's text TRUE10, TRUE10 to 44321. And lastly, I just want to mention that I've mentioned everything that I want to mention right now. Folks, I truly believe that even though we can't hear your laughter or applause or your gasps on occasion, that connections will be made tonight. We always say at True Theater that everyone has a story to tell, and the only difference between strangers and friends is the sharing of that story. And tonight, you're going to make 5 new friends. Our first storyteller tonight is coming to us from his dining room in Cherry Grove. He forewent a career in acting to pursue a career in marketing research, he says, because he felt like eating on a regular basis. Once he didn't have to worry about where his next meal was coming from, he returned to acting in everything from Shakespeare to a Kentucky Powerball commercial. How about that? I wonder if he has the numbers for me. He has also worked on as an extra in a number of locally filmed movies, including Carol, in which the back of his head could be seen and was subsequently broadcast on the Academy Awards. How about that? I'd like to introduce now the front of his head. Coming to you from his dining room, please enjoy this story from Jim Waldfogel.
In Alcoholics Anonymous, there is a saying, which is fake it till you make it. In other words, if the whole concept of everything that you have to go through to maintain sobriety seems a bit intimidating, just go along with it. Eventually, it will become second nature. Well, I figured I wouldn't have any trouble with this because I had been faking it for most of my adult life. Now, growing up, I was never one of what you would call the cool kids. I was an overweight bookworm with glasses, a crew cut, and a funny last name. Not exactly a recipe for being big man on campus. However, toward the end of my high school career, I discovered that alcohol was a great equalizer. So if at a party on the weekend, I would have a beer or two, or 3, or 4, then people that otherwise wouldn't give me the time of day would hang out with me. This kind of affected my schoolwork a bit, but not terribly. I dropped from being second in the class to being third, so I didn't get to give a speech at graduation, but I still got into the college of my choice. Now, the college that I chose was in Pittsburgh, not too far away, but away from parental influence, so I could run wild. And as it turned out, rather than being put into a dormitory, I was put as a boarder in a fraternity. Now, I don't know if you've ever been to a fraternity, but I quickly discovered that they have a bar. And in this bar, they have beer on tap, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I ended up joining this fraternity. Now, I don't know how many of you out there have tried beer, but let me just state that it's an acquired taste. Let me further state that I did everything in my power to acquire it. Eventually, I became bar manager at my fraternity, which is kind of like putting the fox in charge of the hen house. Now, I discovered that I had switched my facade. In high school, I was a studious nerd, putting on the front of being a cool kid, of being a partier. Now, I was a partier, putting on the front of being studious, especially when I would call my parents on the weekend and tell them, oh yeah, everything's going fine. Despite the fact that I tended not to make my early classes because I would be a little bit hungover and decided I would rather sleep. I could only hide this from my parents for so long because they did see my grades. I went from my first semester, fall of '77, in which I actually got a 3.8 grade point average, to the fall of '79, where I was under 2.0. In case you don't know it, that isn't good. I thought, you know, this isn't really where I envisioned my college career going. Maybe I should just take a semester off, go back home, regroup, hit the ground running in the fall. I figured that was all I needed. I wasn't an alcoholic or anything. I mean, I like to drink, and sometimes I like to drink a little too much, as my steadily expanding waistline showed. But anyway, so I took the first semester, winter semester, beginning of 1980, went back home and decided to regroup. End of January, beginning of February, I got an invitation in the mail. Some of my friends from the fraternity, from the partying element of the fraternity, had gotten a house off campus, and they were throwing a housewarming party, which they dubbed the putrefaction party. Now, this sounded like it was right up my alley, despite the fact that putrefaction is not a real word, but I wasn't being picky. So I decided I would drive out there, party for the weekend, then come back home and resume my regrouping. Now, I was not a stranger to drinking and driving. However, there is a difference between cruising the main drag of a small country town, having a few beers, and taking a 300-mile trip while having more than a few beers. Because I discovered that you can drink a lot of beer in 300 miles. Well, it wasn't quite 300 miles. I don't actually remember the accident that I was in. It was about 20 miles or so outside of Pittsburgh. I'm told I hit a patch of ice on a 2-lane highway, went across the road, through a guardrail, down a gully. The only thing that can be said that was good about that was the fact that despite the fact that the road was very busy several minutes earlier, there was no one else coming at me on the other side of the road when I went through, so nobody else was injured. It was bad enough what happened to me. I really couldn't live with myself if I knew that I had caused harm to others. The first thing that I actually remember after the accident is lying in the back of an ambulance with an EMT shining a light in my face and saying, "Son, have you been drinking?" My response was, "I may have had one or two." So, yes, despite the fact that I was in the worst shape of my life, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, my first thought was still to put up a facade. Now, we don't know whether the glass that got in my eye was from the glasses I was wearing or from the windshield of the car, but I was blinded in my left eye. I still have an eyeball. It's shrunken. I have a detached retina. I will never see again out of it, but things could have been a lot worse. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering, and then went back home for further recovering. While I was at home, the doctor made for me a prosthetic shell that goes over my bad eye and makes it look like I have 2 good eyes. Yet another facade that I was putting up. Eventually, I decided that college probably really wasn't for me. I moved back home, got a job, which I barely managed to hang on to, despite periodically calling in sick when I was only hungover. At this job, I did still manage to maintain the facade because I was just about the only college-educated person in my department. But I was still, evenings, weekends, what have you, still drinking quite a bit. My weight ballooned up to 260 pounds. February 5th, 1990, it was a Monday. I had been drinking all weekend, did not feel like going into work, so I called in sick yet again. Was warned that my absences were kind of starting to pile up. I said, "Oh yeah, that's okay. I understand this. This feels like just a 24-hour thing. I'm sure I'll be in tomorrow." So when I hung up with my boss, drove down to the nearest convenience store to pick up a 12-pack, actually got to the convenience store before it opened. So I'm sitting outside waiting for them to open up so that I could go in and get beer at 9 o'clock in the morning. This probably should have been a sign to me, but if I hadn't picked up on any of the signs so far, why start now? So I got the beer, went home, drank most of the day, and then went to bed, determined to go to work the next day. 2 o'clock in the morning, I got what I call my wake-up call. I woke up, and I heard a voice saying to me, "Is this the way you want to spend the rest of your life?" I said, no, I know, I got a problem. I'll talk to my boss in the morning and I'll get help. And the voice said, "No, you say that, but if you go to sleep right now, when you get up, you're not going to get help. You're going to forget this ever happened. I'm going to make you lie awake all night and think about this." So I lay awake for the rest of the night in a cold sweat, went to work the next morning, shaking. When my boss got in, I told her, I need help. She arranged for me to see a counselor, and the counselor advised counseling sessions and Alcoholics Anonymous. Personally, I thought I needed an inpatient program, but he said, let's just try this, see what happens. So I went through counseling and I went to AA. And in AA, I met people before whom I did not have to put up any kind of front. These were people who had been through the same thing that I went through. Maybe not exactly incident for incident, but they had hit bottom as I had hit bottom and were determined to climb out. These were people that were there for me, to support me. It's been 30 years now, this past February, that I've been sober. Through the grace of God, the power of AA, and the love of a very, very good woman who fills the hole in me that I used to fill with alcohol. I really don't wear this shell anymore because I really don't have to put on a front. I can say to the world, this is who I am. Deal with it.
Congratulations, Jim. Thank you for sharing that amazing story. It's very powerful. I know I was moved, and I'm sure there's people out there watching right now that are sending you their love and their support, whether you know them or not. I am Ramona Toussaint. I am the president of the board, and I'm your co-MC for tonight. I want to welcome you to True Theater. If it's your first time, it's an interesting time to start jumping in. This is the first time that we've done this digital world, so it's new to us. Thank you, all of you, new and old, for coming to celebrate our 10-year anniversary in a brand new way. I don't think that David mentioned earlier, so I'll fill you in here, is that we're having a Q&A at the end. So if there are anything about True Theater you want to know, or storytellers you'd like to know more about, if you just feel inspired to jump in with your own stories, please feel free via Zoom or on Facebook, type in your questions, and the Zoom on the bottom or on the top right, you can find a button that says Q&A, and you can put your question in there. And Annette, our production manager, after our fifth and last storyteller completes their story tonight, Annette will pick some questions and ask the group. So stick around. We hope that you enjoy this new and wonderful way that we're doing True Theater. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our next storyteller. He is, well, I guess a wannabe radio announcer. He is a born Hoosier, and he was a DJ, radio DJ when he was in high school, just longing and dreaming to replace Marty and Joe for the Reds. Actually, I think he still dreams to be a play-by-play announcer for the Reds. He lives downtown with his wife, and his two children live away from home. So he's really happy right now to be telling the story and sharing this with them and with you all. Without further ado, I'd love to announce the story that you will most certainly enjoy of Tim Wesolowski.
I grew up on the mean streets of Carmel, Indiana. And for those of you that don't know Carmel, think if Mason and Indian Hill had a baby, that would be Carmel. And Mike and I grew up on the same street, and we were really good friends. We hung out together all the time. Mike was kind of tall, blonde hair, stocky, had glasses that were kind of thick. He was strong. But the main thing about Mike is he was brainy, really smart, valedictorian smart. And in the later part of high school, we became friends with Dave. And Dave was tall, thin, a jock. He was one of the popular guys. I think he was on the golf team that won the state championship. And I was kind of Mr. In between, definitely not smart enough to be truly brainy, not popular for sure, but I kind of got along with most people. And the three of us were sitting at the school lunch table one day. Mike put his tray down and he was kind of nervous and he said, "Man, I got to go to work tonight, but I don't really want to." And Mike worked at a vet clinic at night and he was there alone. He was doing that actually to kind of pad his resume to have better chance of getting into vet school. So he said, I'm working there at night and I've been getting these threatening phone calls. People are calling and saying they're going to break into the place and steal the drugs that we've got there. And I just really don't want to go into work today. So we kind of finished up our lunch. Mike took his tray, went to get rid of it. He went somewhere, I don't know, probably AP physics or something like that, a class I wasn't going in for sure. So Dave and I were sitting across from each other at the lunch table, and Dave kind of leaned over and said, "Hey, you want to scare the shit out of Mike?" I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, I'll call him when he gets into work. I'll disguise my voice and I'll tell him that we're going to break in that night. And then you and I can go, we'll bang on the windows and we'll scare him." I thought, I don't know, that sounded like fun. I'm all in. Hey, what could go wrong? So as the day went on, I still had a couple of extra classes. I was sitting there and I started to get kind of nervous. I was a little bit of a nervous kid and I started to feel bad about this. See, Mike and I were really the best friends. We were on the same street. And if we did this prank that Dave was saying, it might really damage our relationship. So I didn't know what to do. I was getting kind of anxious. And then in the last class, it hit me. We'll double cross him. So Mike and I drove in the same car to and from school, and something that we did a lot was stop at Steak and Shake on the way from school to home. So we were sitting there, had ordered our food. I told Mike about the plan and our idea to double cross him. He was all in. So we were kind of formulating our plan, and Mike's dad had a lot of guns, a gun collection. Didn't really know where that was going, but it was definitely a good start. And then the waitress came and brought the plate in front of me, and I can still smell those wonderful Steak and Shake fries. And I grabbed the ketchup, squeezed it on those fries. It was coming out bright red, and then the light came off. We'd have Mike take his gun to work, loaded with blanks, and then when we were outside, he would chase us down and shoot me. This was going to be great. I took the ketchup bottle, put it in my coat. We finished up, and then we drove over to Mike's house to execute this plan. So we pull in the driveway, open up the garage door. We go in, shut this garage door behind us. And Mike goes in and says, "I'm going to get a gun." He opens up a cabinet, grabs a box of shotgun shells, throws them to me and says, "Here, make a blank out of one of these." I didn't know what to do. I'd never seen a shotgun shell. I'd never touched a gun. I didn't know what to do. So I opened it up and pulled out a shell. And a shotgun shell has a brass blasting cap on one end, a plastic tube, it's about this long, and at the end of the tube, it's crimped, holding in the buckshot. So I knew I had to get the buckshot out of there, but I wasn't sure how to do it. Went over to the workbench, grabbed a screwdriver, pushed in the end, and pushed, and that wasn't working. So I walked over to the workbench, set the shotgun shell down with the blasting cap on the bottom, took that screwdriver, put it on the end, got a hammer, kind of leaned over and bonk, bonk, bonk. Oh, finally went through, opened it up, crimped end open. I poured out the buckshot, never seen it before. It was kind of rolling around in my hand, threw it on the workbench. Just then, Mike came in with a shotgun. He said, all right, we're good to go. I said, wait a minute. You're going to shoot this at me. I got to see if this thing works or not. I don't know if there's anything in there. So we decided to test it. We put a piece of newspaper up along the wall of the garage, tacked it up there. Mike put the blank shotgun shell in the shotgun, loaded it, went over to the wall, was about 4 feet away, click, click, bang. Do you have any idea how loud a shotgun is when it goes off in a closed garage? My ears were splitting, ears were ringing, my head was splitting, I couldn't think. But I went over to the newspaper, it was pristine, nothing wrong with it, this was gonna work. So Mike said, hey, take and make 2 more of those blanks, I'm gonna go inside to get ready for work. So I went over to the workbench, made 2 blanks, and I put the blanks over on the right side of the workbench, and I moved the live shells over on the left-hand side. So blanks here, live shells here. Opened up the garage door and went home. Just lived down the street, did a little homework, and then a couple hours later, the phone rang, and it was Dave. And he said, hey, man, you ready? Yep, I am. Here's our plan. Again, I'm gonna call him, disguise my voice. I need you to wear all black and bring a ski mask. And we'll meet at the parking lot right next door to the vet at 9 o'clock. Sounds like a plan. I'm all in. So, you know, again, I'm kind of a nervous kid, tried to finish my dinner, did a little bit of homework, but I was really getting nervous. At 8:45, I got in the car, and by then my chest is just almost ready to, heart's almost ready to burst out of my chest. I'm thinking, wait a minute, what happens if the cops come by? What happens if somebody calls the cops? What happens if Mike grabbed the wrong shells? What if he has the live shells? And then as I was just about to pull up, it started raining. I swear to God, it started raining. So I'm in the parking lot next to the vet clinic. I pull next door there, and Dave's there. We meet him, we get out, dressed in all black, got the ski masks on, roll it down over our faces. It's right at 9 o'clock. We walk across the grass, the rain's coming down, the grass is kind of wet. We walk to the back of the vet clinic and start approaching it from the back. It's all lit up, it's nighttime, all the lights are on. And on the back part of the clinic, there's a steel door and then a window that runs the whole length of it. So Mike and I are kind of pushed up against the door like this. We look over into the window and we see Mike in there with a mop, and Mike's actually kind of startled when he sees us. Dave and I pull back like this. We're ready to bang on the door. Dave's got his hands on my shoulders. 1, 2, 3. Bang, bang, bang. Look out the window like this. Dave is running at us. The shotgun is swinging wildly in his arms. His glasses are kind of off on the side of his head. Dave looks at me and just says, whispers, screams, he's got a gun. So he tears off to where our cars were. Just like the plan, I ran straight back from the clinic. Mike swings the door open, sees me running, clicks, bang, bang. I fall down on the grass, face down. And I'm thinking, oh man, I don't know. I thought I heard some buckshot. I don't know. I feel like I'm still alive. Not sure. Mike comes out, rolls me over, takes that ketchup squeeze bottle from Steak and Shake, pours it all over my chest. The rain's coming down. He takes my ski mask, rolls it up, and says, oh my God, it's Tim. I shot him. Then Mike leaned down, picked me up. Rain's coming down, carries me across the grass, across the sidewalk. Some of that ketchup fell off of me onto the sidewalk, mixed in with the rain, a great effect. Crossed the threshold of the door, and Mike laid me down on the floor. So I'm laying on this cold, white, hard linoleum floor, staying in character for about 2 minutes, long 2 minutes for me, but then Dave comes in the back door. It must have been an incredible 2 minutes for him. He is absolutely white as a ghost. He looks down, looks up, bends down with me. I jump up like this and say, ha, gotcha. Well, remember when I said we were great friends at the beginning part of high school? At the end, not so much. Dave never said another word to me in the last 2 years of high school. He might have said something to Mike, I don't even know. Didn't say anything at our 5-year reunion, even at our 20-year reunion. You know, it was a hell of a prank, and I've enjoyed telling the story over the years. But Dave, if you're out there, sorry, man.
Oh my God. I really thought that you were going to tell me that the shotgun shell like blew up in your hand when you were doing that. Like I was a little nervous. I was a little nervous for you. So kids, do not try that at home. My goodness. Well, that was some story. Dave, if you're out there listening, maybe you might want to forgive your friend Tim there, but I wouldn't blame you. No, honestly, we would love to arrange for that reunion if you so chose to, you know, it's been a long time, be over it, but what an incredible story. Thank you so much, Tim, for telling that. I would like to also point out to you that I don't think that you can see this, but I'm wearing a True Theater t-shirt. Woohoo, be true. So if Dave, if you're out there, reach out to us on Facebook to reunite you and Tim. And if you're out there, go to our Facebook and you're not Dave and tell us you want a t-shirt and we'll get one to you. So in just a moment, I will be letting you guys go for a little bit of a leg stretch, a little intermission of sorts, but not till we've heard from our third speaker tonight. She is a Cincinnati native as well. She lives here in the city with her boyfriend and 2 cats. She loves being a hairstylist. She told me to say a shout out to High Five Salon. All right. Well, I know for a fact I'm going to need one really soon, and she cannot get back to work soon enough. So without, any more time spent on rambling, I would like to introduce to you our next storyteller, Laura Dent.
It was Mother's Day, 1996. I was 6 years old and I was suffering. I was suffering from chronic lack of attention. I needed a lot of attention as a child, and I was always coming up with different ways on how to get it. Now, like I said, it was Mother's Day, and in my house, that was a really cool day because my mom actually always got us a present. She said being our mom was the greatest gift she could have, and we didn't need to get her anything. The day was all about my brother and I. So we would get like balloons or candy or a present or some, kind of treat. But that wasn't enough for me. After all, I had to share the day with my brother. So I needed a way to get more attention than him. I decided on this particular Mother's Day that I was going to pretend to be colorblind. That might sound really random because it is. I have no idea why I decided to pretend to be colorblind. I don't know where I heard it, probably TV or maybe from a classmate or something like that. But I was under the impression that if I could convince my mom I was colorblind, that I would get glasses. And I really, really wanted glasses. So I was gonna do this. So our treat that year for Mother's Day was my mom took my brother and I to UDF to get ice cream. And as we're sitting outside eating our ice cream, I'm kind of trying to think of how I'm going to bring this up. Because my mom had a rule, and that was if it's not bleeding or on fire, don't bother me with it. As I was not bleeding or on fire, I had to be a little more tactical about bringing this up. So I'm eating my cotton candy ice cream, and I look up at my mom and I say, Mom, very innocently, Mom, what color is my ice cream? What? What color is my ice cream? I can't tell. What do you mean you can't tell? Like, just looks gray to me. So my mom proceeds to kind of ask me like questions, like quizzing me on what I'm seeing in the parking lot. You know, what color are those yellow lines separating the cars? I'm like, gray. What color is the red car over there? Gray. You get the picture. So my mom's pretty sure I'm full of it. What if I'm not? What if I'm like suffering from some weird random disease, or I'm gonna go blind, and if she ignored me, it would be all her fault and she would feel terrible. So she asked me, how long has this been going on? I'm like, oh, a long time, I don't know. She's like, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? I'm like, well, I wasn't bleeding or on fire. The mom guilt kicked in. So she took me to the hospital. My mom worked at the hospital and she knew the nurses, I think, and the doctors, so I'm sure she took me to someone that she trusted. We go and they suggest that I see a specialist. And I liked the sound of that because that sounded very special. So we're off to the specialist. And I remember being in the car on the way there, you know, and I'm kind of checking myself out in the side view mirror, you know, like arm up on the thing, and I'm looking at my hair blowing in the breeze. I'm like, you are good, girl. You got this. Maybe you are colorblind. That's how good you are. I was thinking I was colorblind. I was convincing myself. We get to the specialist, and I remember coloring in the waiting room. They had a bunch of crayons. It's a broad spectrum of colored crayons. I'm coloring, and I started to plot my next venture, which would be maybe if I could convince this specialist, I would maybe get famous as like the kid who could color really good, who was colorblind. I mean, I really wanted to get on TV. I was going to be a famous actress anyway. I would at least get on the morning announcements, right? Alas, it's my time to go into the specialist. I did a bunch of tests. I put, you know, like colored blocks in certain orders, and they put me behind one of those slideshow things that I'm telling them what I see, you know, in these pictures. I would have been thrilled at that. I mean, even if he didn't believe me, I had gotten so much attention. I got to go to the doctor. That was like my favorite thing as a kid. Well, we're in the waiting room yet again. My mom walks up and she's like, let's go. It's time to get your glasses. I had done it. I was going to get my glasses. So me and my mom go to LensCrafter or wherever you went in 1996 to get glasses. I don't really know. And we're there, and I pick out my glasses, pink rims, glasses case with rainbow kitties on it. And this is the moment. I mean, I have to put these glasses on and present to see color for the first time. See, I thought as a kid that being colorblind meant that you saw the world in like black and white, and then you would put on glasses and then you would see the world in like Technicolor, like the Wizard of Oz. So I kind of had to sell this. Put on the glasses and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Is that what blue looks like? What color is that? Oh, wow. Like I was making myself emotional. How inspiring. The next morning, my mom drove me to school. Didn't even have to ride the bus, y'all. So my mom drives me to school because she needs to explain to my first grade teacher about my condition. I'm sitting at my desk and I'm not, coloring or whatever, getting ready for the day. And my mom and my teacher, Mrs. Ames, are in the corner and they're looking at me and they're laughing and they're probably talking about the special attention I'm gonna need with my, my new condition. And my mom leaves and the rest of the first graders started to file in. And I yet again got what I wanted. They crowded around me. They were like, wow, cool glasses. Can I try them on? I'm like, no, these are my glasses. They're made specifically for my eyes. My mom said no one can wear them because they can hurt your eyes. These are just for me. I wore the glasses for about a week. And then I got bored with them and I threw them away, or I might have hid them and just hoped no one would bring it up, and nobody did. My teacher didn't say anything. My mom didn't say anything, and everyone just kind of forgot about it. Now, of course, the glasses were big. I didn't need them, obviously. But as I got older, I remember thinking back to this story, and I thought it was really cool that my mom just kind of like went along with it. She just let me have the glasses. And I took that as such a cool lesson in parenting, as a person, when to not sweat the small stuff, like just to make people around you happy. Like I thought that was cool, among other things she did, that I kind of admired that. Well, I actually brought this story up to my mom when I found out I was going to be performing this story. And I brought it up to her and she was dying. She thought it was so funny. We had never talked about it. We haven't thought about it in 25 years. I asked my dad about it and he didn't even remember this ever happened. That's how quick I wore these glasses. So we're dying and we're cracking up about it. And I asked, I hear my mom's full perspective on this story, which makes it much easier for me to tell. And her recollection was a little less sentimental than mine. She just said, I knew you were faking the whole time. And I figured if I just got you the stupid glasses, you'd forget about them in a week. Well, I guess I wasn't quite as charming as I thought I was. But I do still think there is a lesson in it. And she was a great mom. And I, against her rule of not getting her a present, I did get her a present this year, but I can't say what it is with Mother's Day coming up on Sunday because she is watching. Hi, Mom. Sorry for everything. I love you. The end.
All I could say is it's a good thing you're not my daughter, Laura. Thanks for that story. It was terrific. I hope you and your mom find a way to celebrate in a way that's safe and happy for you this Mother's Day. And the same goes for everybody else out there celebrating Mother's Day. Folks, we've got like 120 plus people watching on Facebook and 77, I think, here within the in the Zoom meeting with us. And the people in the Zoom meeting were polled at the beginning of our meeting. We asked them a few demographic style questions. I think we got 56 responses, and it looks like we had about 27% and 29% for whom this was either their first show or they'd seen fewer than 5. And then some self-identified as super fans. 25 people have seen more than 5 shows, 5 or more shows. Folks, if you're new to our show, we hope you enjoy this and you'll keep coming back. If you're a returnee, we really are grateful to have you come back. And for you super fans, you really do keep us going. Thank you so much. Not a surprise, most of the people are joining from the tri-state. If you're watching on Facebook, why don't you post in the live feed where you're watching from, and let's see how far the farthest person watching is. That'd be really cool. And also, not surprisingly, the majority of people are watching the stream by themselves. I'm watching it by myself. And then the next group is watching with 2 or 4 people. That's great. Thanks for sharing that poll. We're about to have another poll as we go into this very brief intermission. Folks, we're going to give you an opportunity to stretch your legs for like 4 minutes max. Aaron's going to play some guitar while you do, and this is an opportunity for you to run to the bathroom, grab a drink, refill your snacks, maybe text TRUE10 to 44321 and share a donation if you're having fun, or if you just want to share a donation. And do whatever else you might do in 4 minutes. Who am I to judge? We'll see you soon. Thanks once again, Aaron Bates. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back for the second half of our show. We got two more storytellers coming up for you, and then the Q&A at the end. You know, it's been a strange time for everybody, and this show obviously had to be canceled, was supposed to be performed tonight at this time, live at Memorial Hall. And we rallied and are delivering this to you online now. But who's to say what's going to happen to our next show? July 23rd, we're supposed to be bringing you True Suffrage. In August, we, with a generous grant from ArtsWave, we're producing our first of the True Voices series, Behind the Rainbow Curtain, made possible thanks to a grant from the ArtsWave Pride Committee. These things will hopefully happen or take place live, but here's what I do know. We figured out how to do it online live, and if necessary, we're going to keep the shows rolling. In fact, the upcoming Cincinnati Fringe Festival has become a virtual festival, and we have been producing a one-night only show every year since we've existed. This year is going to be our 10th season, 10th year participating in the Cincinnati Fringe Festival, using fringe artists as the storytellers, and we plan on doing that again this year. They don't have a date set for us yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be maybe the first or second Thursday in June. I can't remember how the whole calendar breaks down. But one thing I do know is if you keep track of our website at truetheater.org, or if you like our Facebook page, please like our Facebook page, or follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you will be kept up to date with the news so that you won't miss a show like this, whether live in person or live online. We'll keep them coming. People have always asked us too, how do we find our storytellers? I tell you, one way is people ask us how we find our storytellers. They come from people like you who are interested. If you have a story that you think fits one of the future themes we have announced on our website, and right now there's only a couple, but we'll be announcing season 11 in the not too distant future. Reach out to us through our website at the Share a Story link that you'll see at the top, and let us hear from you. Sometimes, if there's such a good story that doesn't fit any of the themes, we'll create a theme in the next season just so we can have it. And heck, now that we've figured out how to produce a show online, maybe we'll start producing additional off-season shows like this with themes put together even more frequently. I mean, who's to say what's possible? So submit your stories, let us hear from you. It's truly a blessing to get them all. Now, on with the show. Our next storyteller tonight is our second radio man in the lineup, but this one got considerably farther than high school. You can hear him today between, is it 4 and 8 on 92.5 The Fox, playing classic rock, or you may recognize his voice from many years on WEBN when he used to play the same music when they just called it rock. He also designed several of their commercial parodies and some of the soundtracks that accompanied the WEBN fireworks. He is a comedy writer and a speech writer, and also a regular contributor to Cincinnati Magazine, where you could read a column from him on a monthly basis. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from his home in Kenwood, please give it up for Jay Gilbert.
On January 14th, 1985, I woke up the way just about everybody in Cincinnati, just about everybody in America woke up, with a radio, a clock radio. It was in every bedroom in America. It was in every kitchen while people got their day started. It was in every car. And so on that morning, January 14th, 1985, just about everybody in Cincinnati heard the commercial that I'm about to play for you. It was on every commercial radio station in Cincinnati that day, the next day, for the next several weeks. And it kind of became a craze in the entire city. Maybe you were there, maybe you heard this commercial.
It's the most revolutionary way to shop in all the world, and it's opening soon. Plummet Mall, the world's first shopping facility that's built straight down, underground, where the climate is naturally comfortable, and where the lower you go, the lower the prices go. Plummet Mall, where continuously moving walkways and spiral escalators take you conveniently from value to value. This is not just another shopping center. This is the future of shopping. Keep listening for the announcement of the location and grand opening of this totally new concept in shopping convenience. Plummet Mall. The best value in town is a hole in the ground. Plummet Mall, opening in Greater Cincinnati soon.
Well, of course, you know, it was fake, didn't exist. But most people thought it was real. There were only about 20 people in the entire city of Cincinnati who knew that that was fake. I was one of them. I wrote it. I hired that announcer. I produced that music. I came up with a name, Plummet Mall. I did it in a partnership with a guy named Jerry Galvin. He owned an ad agency. The ad agency had place to buy. He bought all the time on all the commercial radio stations. And you may wonder why we did something like that. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. But first, let me tell you what happened. Almost right away, the phone started ringing at Jerry's ad agency almost right away. Nobody knew that I had anything to do with it. I worked at a radio station. I worked at WEVN, but I was only one of two people there who knew what Plummet Mall was about. Everybody else was going, well, what is this? And I had to play dumb. The first people that Jerry Galvin heard from were people who were upset. And the people who were upset were people who worked at newspapers and television stations because they didn't get part of that ad buy. Where obviously there's a lot of money behind this, and why didn't any of it go to the newspapers or to the TV station? Jerry also heard from utilities, Cincinnati Gas and Electric, the phone company, people who issue building permits. We haven't been notified about any of this. Well, what is this about? The public, they believed it, and they couldn't wait for Plummet Mall to open up. And there was a lot of theories about where it was going to be. The commercial didn't say where it was, didn't say when it was going to open up. But people were saying, "Oh, I see a construction site in Cheviot. I see a construction site, in Westwood, in Oakley." So there was a lot of that going on. Within a week or two, about the third week, most people kind of started to figure out that it was fake, but nobody knew who was doing it or why. The people who were doing it were the radio stations themselves. The Cincinnati Radio Broadcasters Association was a group of general managers of radio stations. Now, normally, local stations are all competitors, but they created this association to help promote radio as a medium for advertising. And the concept was, if we put an ad campaign only on the radio, nowhere else, and then do a market research study on the name recall of that ad campaign, and those results are high, we can go, look how many people are listening to the radio and paying attention. You should be buying ads on the radio. And that's what we did. And when we went public with it, everybody was furious, especially newspapers, television, and a lot of the public too. They said, we're never going to be able to believe what we hear on the radio ever again. My response to that was, I can't believe you believed everything you heard on the radio up to now. Really? You think that penis enhancement thing is going to work? Anyway, so we did Plummet Mall. It was a big success. It got a lot of press in the radio industry and in the advertising industry. And that is why Jerry Galvin and I heard from radio associations in other cities. They wanted us to do the same thing in their town. Now, we couldn't do Plummet Mall again because it got too much press. So every time we went to a new city with an idea of a fake radio campaign, we had to start from scratch. In Raleigh, North Carolina, about a year and a half after Plummet Mall, we created a political candidate, or shall I say, what seemed like a political candidate. This guy never said, vote for me, never even said what office he was running for. It was January and an off election year. And let me play you one commercial for Gene Jenkins, a candidate for something.
Gene Jenkins. A lot of accidents are caused by left turns because most left turns are made in front of oncoming traffic. Well, that's just inviting trouble. Many intersections already forbid left turns because they're just too dangerous. So it's not that new of an idea.
That's Gene with a J and Jenkins with a G.
The Jenkins plan includes a statewide ban on the left turn. Yes, it means a little more planning, but it also means a lot fewer accidents.
If you see that name on a ballot, remember, the Jenkins plan is a reasonable plan.
It's reasonable because it allows for left turns in those places where there really is no choice.
Gene Jenkins is a reasonable man.
I'm Gene Jenkins. Keep listening.
Notice that that commercial, just like the Plummet Law commercial, didn't tell you to do anything except keep listening, because that was the commercial, the radio itself. And so once again, it took a couple of weeks, but people kind of figured out that it was fake, especially because some of the later Gene Jenkins commercials, and Dave is going to tell you when I'm finished, a place where you can go and hear all of the commercials I'm talking about. The Gene Jenkins commercials got more and more absurd. Later commercials, Gene Jenkins proposed a statewide pet tax that was based on the size and environmental impact of your pet. If it was a goldfish, it wasn't that much, but if you had a dog that would tend to have a reputation for, needing mail carrier uniforms repaired, the tax was a little higher. A later commercial said, well, we're going to try to raise the state's literacy rate, and so we're going to have every adult in the state read a book, write a report on it, mail it into the state. I won't tell you about the state dress code. That was later. Anyway, so in the later weeks, when people figured out this has got to be fake, but who's doing it and why, there was a theory that was floated around. One of the theories was maybe this Gene Jenkins guy is a new morning show that's going to be on one of the radio stations, and this is a way they're promoting it. They're getting all the other radio stations to unknowingly promote a new morning show. Well, that was not what we did, but we said to each other, that is the greatest fucking idea I've ever heard. And so in Denver, where the company that owned WEBN at the time was in J-Cord, they owned a station in Denver, and it was about to start a new morning show. The show was called Morning Flakes, a play on breakfast cereal, but they actually meant it was just another morning zoo kind of a show. So we created a fake commercial for Morning Flakes, and it sounded like it was a commercial for a cereal. And this time, all the commercials ran on all the radio stations in town, but it wasn't a conspiracy by all the radio stations. It was one radio station victimizing all the other radio stations in Denver to unknowingly promote their new morning show, which they did for several days. We finally got caught a little sooner than we wanted to, but it was the year that the Denver Broncos got into the Super Bowl. They had just won the playoffs. They were going to be in the Super Bowl. And that morning of the Denver Post, the entire front page was about the Denver Broncos making it to the Super Bowl, except at the bottom, a story about us and Morning Flakes. Well, Jerry Galvin and I continued to do stuff in other cities. We created a fake movie premiere in Minneapolis, and in another place in Virginia, we created a fake racing event. We never got prosecuted. We never got sued. We did get copied. People, radio associations in other cities tried doing this themselves without us. And they weren't as careful as we were. We were very careful to make commercials that never made people do anything, go anywhere, and especially spend any money, or even make a decision not to spend money waiting for this fake thing to become real. Not everybody was as smart as we were. In Portland, Oregon, they did fake commercials on all the radio stations for a new car that got 200 miles per gallon, but they said it was going to be available soon at a real car dealership, which is why the Washington State Attorney General was ready to fine every radio station $25,000 a day for every day they continued the commercials, which they didn't. In Baltimore, they were smarter. There was a new waterfront shopping area that was being built in Baltimore, and the radio station started promoting an underwater shopping mall called the Loch Ness Mall. And nobody was fooled by that. Everybody knew that we're just having a good time. And we had a great time, but we were very careful. And I would just say to you that if you ever want to do something fake in broadcasting, hire a lawyer. We didn't. We were just, we just thought it through. But if you want to hire a lawyer, be very careful and be charming. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay. That was a charming story. Kind of unbelievable, but you know, individuals are smart, but sometimes people in groups, not so smart. Anyway, if you want to find out more information about Plummet Mall and any of the aftermath that happened after that, Jay has written an article for Cincinnati Magazine, and you can find it on their website at cincinnati-magazine.com. There you can find all kinds of details, links, all of the commercials that Jay was referring to earlier. So have at it if you like trivia, that kind of thing. So anyway, before I introduce the last storyteller, I wanted to remind you that we are having kind of a Q&A afterward. You can put some questions in the Facebook feed. You can Zoom and the Q&A, which should be a button down at the bottom or up at your top right. Some questions that you want our storytellers or anyone from True Theater to ask. We're happy to chat for a while afterward, and all the storytellers will come back on and we'll have all the mics open and they'll be able to answer your questions. Also a reminder, as the representative from the board here, that we have big plans. This is an unusual time, as David has said, and we need community and connection more than ever. And our stories do that. Very, very powerful stories that connect us all and share commonalities, even though we don't have the same backgrounds or the same upbringing or the same religions or the same cultures. So if you could donate, that would be really, really great. In each of the storytellers' screens as they get introduced, there's the 44321 number that you can text TRUE10 for our 10-year anniversary and make a small donation, because we have some big plans to do big things in the community this year. So our final storyteller, let me tell you about her. She spent 30 years as a registered nurse. So to the registered nurses out there, but she's now serving as a nursing home supervisor for the Ohio Department of Health. At the moment, she's working from home and she's on the calls a lot. So if you've called into the health department recently, you've probably talked to her. She lives in Hamilton, Ohio with her husband, who is a semi-retired physician. He actually is a physician that works for a medical marijuana clinic. Not too bad of a choice of a quarantine partner. Friends in high places, maybe? Not me, maybe you. Anyway, she's a proud mom of 2, and she just had just became a grandma in late February, and she's really eager for things to kind of normalize around here, as we all are, so she can hold her grandson again. So without further ado, I will be introducing you our last and final storyteller for the evening. She is Bridget Cornell.
Okay, so I didn't always have this luxurious long blonde hair. In fact, growing up, my hair was reddish brown, and I wore it in a short pixie cut style called the wedge, made popular by Olympic figure skater Dorothy Hamill. Some of you may be old enough to know who I'm talking about. And then as I grew older, I grew my hair out longer, and I blow dried it every morning, and I had the feathered bangs, kind of the Farrah Fawcett look. I loved my hair. I had what I considered to be good hair. The longest I ever grew my hair, though, was in my 20s. And it was at that time that I met and married a man who belonged to a church that taught that women should not cut or even trim their hair. And they used a Bible verse that they kind of drilled into our head that backed up that teaching. And the Bible verse says, a woman's long hair is her glory, and it's given to her by God as a covering. So, you know, I got with the program, and I grew my hair all the way to the back of my waist. And it was really gorgeous, but I didn't love it because I was being forced to grow it. So in my 30s, I left that church, left that man. One of the first things I did is I got my hair chopped off to a cute chin length bob. And coincidentally, shortly after that is when I first started losing my hair. It was my ex-husband who was the first to point out that it looked like I was going bald. And he actually suggested that maybe I was going bald as a punishment from God. Well, I thought it was a coincidence, so I sought medical attention. I went to a number of doctors, endocrinologists, dermatologists. They did scalp analysis, blood tests, urine tests. At the end of the day, the diagnosis was always the same: androgenic alopecia, which is just a fancy term for female pattern baldness. And some of you may be familiar with its counterpart, male pattern baldness. Now, the doctors tried to console me that it was extremely uncommon for a woman with androgenic alopecia to go totally bald like men with the same condition do. I had a doctor also tell me that in the alopecia community, there are many types of alopecia. Some people lose their eyebrows and eyelashes, all the hair on their body, but that I should consider myself lucky because the type of alopecia I had only affected the top of my head. Lucky. All of the medications and different remedies that the doctors offered to me did nothing to halt the progression of my hair loss, did nothing to make my hair grow back. So then I sought the snake oil salesman, and I spent a lot of cash on different shampoos and potions and supplements, which were also unsuccessful in causing my hair to grow back or my hair loss to halt. And I carried a lot of shame about the whole thing. I was very embarrassed that I was going bald. Women weren't supposed to be bald. And I discovered that there are a lot of ways that you can fake a full head of hair, because I felt like it was something I had to hide at all costs. The first thing I tried was a spray-on hair called Fullmore, which is basically like spray-on hair in a can. So, and my hair was reddish brown at the time. So I would spray paint my scalp every morning. I'd wash my hair, spray paint it. I wouldn't wash it off until the next time I washed my hair. And the reason for this was I couldn't stand to look at myself and see how much hair I had lost. I didn't want anybody in my life to see it either. It got really messy. I had to use like dark colored sheets. Wreaked havoc on my dating life because I couldn't stay anyplace else or be spontaneous. One time I was on a date with a new man in my life, and we were in the hot tub, and the heat from the hot tub caused the spray to start running down my forehead. And my date was alarmed and thought I was bleeding. I gave him a story about how I had popped a pimple and it had started bleeding, rather than tell him the truth. So then I got this brilliant idea that I was going to get my scalp tattooed, and then I wouldn't have all the problems with the spray. That was extremely painful, worse than childbirth. And worst of all, it didn't even take. It kind of like flaked off in a couple weeks. And all I have to show for it are some stray marks that are still on the top of my head. So in my 40s, I tried some other tactics. First thing I did was dye my hair blonde and cut it short, because I thought maybe that would help minimize the show through. It didn't make a whole lot of difference, but I did discover that I enjoy being a blonde. Next, I tried glue-on hair pieces. You may have heard of Hair Club for Men. This was the same kind of idea. They were itchy, expensive, uncomfortable, and I developed fungal infections from leaving them on too long. How attractive. So then I tried clip-on hair pieces. I didn't really have enough hair left to properly anchor these clip-on hair pieces, and I had several unfortunate wardrobe malfunctions, like at a business meeting or on a date where part of my hair would flip up. So by age 50, I was completely bald on top. I have a picture here. There you go. And you can see a little bit of the stray mark from when I got the scalp tattoo. So doing the math, 20 years now, ages 30 to 50, I hid my hair loss. I'm 55 now. And throughout all of this, I was just embarrassed. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't look at my bald head. without crying. And whenever I tried to talk to anybody about it, I always got this sense that it was somehow my fault. Instead of thinking of it as a medical condition, that people would suggest that maybe I needed to manage my stress better, or lose weight, or exercise more, or pray more, or maybe God was mad at me. But I decided when I was 50 years old that I was going to take a drastic step. I decided that I was going to shave off what was left of my hair. So here it is. This is a standard size sandwich bag. It's only about 1/4 full. This is all the hair that I had left on my head at age 50. Now, you might think it is a bit creepy that I still have this bag of hair, but I probably will always keep this bag of hair and cherish it, because for me, it is a symbol of freedom. It represents the day that I said, enough. It represents the day I decided it was time to come out about my alopecia. I decided I was going to stop hiding, and I let go of the shame. And oh, I did get some really gorgeous fake hair, but I'm not ashamed anymore of my bald head. So that's not why I wear it. I wear it because when I go out in public without hair, people tend to think I have cancer. And also I really like, the way it looks. And these days I look for every opportunity to talk about alopecia. I mean, here I am tonight talking to all of you, and it's on the internet forever. And I do that because I think that we don't talk about women's hair loss enough in particular. We don't talk about alopecia enough, and specifically women's hair loss. And I think that we need to celebrate our differences and celebrate the things that make us unique instead of hiding them and being ashamed about them. Because we are all bald in one way or another. We all have something about ourselves that makes us feel vulnerable. And I'm going to leave you tonight with this one thought, which is also from the Bible. I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and so are all of you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Bridget. What an uplifting story to finish the evening with. Folks, those are our 5 storytellers. We are about to embark upon our first ever Q&A session, but first I have to thank about 10, 11 people explicitly. Of course, our storytellers for tonight. They really worked hard to prepare for this evening. I thought they just did a beautiful job. I'm going to try to do it in reverse order. That was Bridget Cornell, Jay Gilbert, Laura Dent, Tim Wesolowski, and starting off the evening with Jim Waldvogel. Thank you so much for your work and for sharing your stories with us tonight. Aaron Bates accompanying the stories with his guitar tonight was brilliant. Thank you, Aaron. Ramona has become my co-MC for these shows now. I think she's a permanent fixture at the shows, and I'm truly personally grateful to have her share the load with me. And of course, behind the scenes, we've got Patrick Ramelli, who took our initial designs given to us by our close friend Janet Zach and turned them into the slides that you see on the screen before you now and throughout the show. And Annette, our trusty production manager, who's been calling all the cues and helping me ever since we had pitch night for this show, in which we found our storytellers. And Jackson Short, as I mentioned earlier, running the camera like a TV director, plus all of these people that you see on the screen right now. It truly does take a village. This is a true journey that we are on, and at True Theater, we're very glad to be on it with you. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank all these people who've helped us out in one way or another over the season and beyond. It's been truly grateful, blessing to have you with us. Hope you can stick around for just a few more minutes while I turn it over to Annette to lead us through the Q&A. And if you can't stay around, at least stay safe, stay connected, and stay true. Take it away, Annette.
Hi, everybody. Annette Ucci here. Dave, thank you so much. We want to thank you. You never get thanked for these things.
I do.
Well, welcome. This is the first time I've actually been on stage, so to speak, with True Theater. I'm always backstage running around acting like a fool. But let's go ahead and get started on this. First of all, if you don't know, if you have a question and you haven't put it in yet, and I do see we have some questions already, you can find the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. If you have an iPad, I understand it's in the upper right-hand side. We're going to get through as many of the questions as we can in the allotted time that we have. However, if we can't get through all our questions, we will be sure to post them on Facebook with the answers. Okay, great. Oh, and I've been reminded also to talk to you about the last poll that we had. One wild outcome of being on lockdown is the extraordinary number of people who have watched The Tiger King on Netflix. Have you watched it? Well, I will tell you, I couldn't get through the first 30 minutes. I thought it, yuck. Okay, period. I thought it was awful. So I'm really interested in seeing what these results are. Yes, I enjoyed it. 7 people. Okay.
I liked it.
Yes, but wish I could get that time back. Understandable.
That would have been me.
No, I'm not being judgmental. Okay, I'm not being judgmental at all. I started it, but quit with no intention of returning. That's me. I'm right there with you. Started it, no spoilers, please. I'm going to finish. Good luck. No, but plan to. Are you really sure about that? No, and have no plan to. And Tiger, what now? That was 0. But we had, oh, I didn't give you the numbers. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble reading. These glasses don't work. The screen's so small, but just very quickly, I'll say it again. You enjoyed it, 7 people. Getting the time back, 5 people. Started it, but quit with no intention of returning, 4 people. Started it, no spoilers, please. That's just 1 person. Smart. No, but plan to watch it. That just 1 person. And again, sorry to be repeating, but have no plan to watch it. 17. That seems to be the majority of people. Okay. Let me go ahead and start.
Storytellers, have they seen it? What about
Every episode?
Watching it.
That's a good question.
I gave up on those. I gave up on those kinds of shows around Anna Nicole Williams. I decided I didn't need to watch any more shows of people I needed to feel superior to. So I just don't watch those anymore.
I don't even know what network it's on.
Good. Yeah, it was kind of insulting. Let me see. This is the first time I had a chance to look at these questions.
I love
them.
I've got about 11 questions.
So I've got the first question for Tim. So Tim, does Dave still hate Mike too?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question. Dave's like just nowhere to be found all this time. Mike actually became a very successful vet, has a group of clinics, a couple kids, happy life, all that's really good. When I said we never talked, we never talked. We were actually on a high school radio station together, and it's kind of awkward. There's only 15 people or so, and we never said a word after that.
Okay.
You keep in touch with Mike though?
Don't blame him.
I sent him an invite to this, so I'm really hoping that that he saw it. I saw one of his kids works where he does. I'm going to guess he hasn't told him this story, but I don't know.
Okay.
Crazy story.
And just a shout out to Britt. She's watching on Zoom from Fairhope, Alabama. It's kind of fun.
Thanks, Britt.
Got them from everywhere today. And I had some here. Jim, question for you. Sorry if you get to ask this a lot, but can you drive when you are blind in one eye? That's a good question.
Yeah, no, it's not a problem because basically I don't have depth perception, but past, say, 30 feet or so, you don't really rely on depth perception. You just rely on the relative size of what you're looking at. So driving's never been an issue for me.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Laura, couple things. Did you style your hair yourself for your school picture? That's the first part.
You posted that picture on Facebook.
No,
You need to get
that
to
was
the show.
my mom. She used a curling iron and a lot of white rain.
Yeah, oh, white rain. That's that real sticky stuff, right?
Our bathroom was covered in it.
Oh my, yeah, yeah.
Haven't seen the picture.
And what is it like?
Ponytail. It's pretty hilarious.
I like it.
It's a cute picture. What is it like in downtown Cincinnati right now, Laura?
Right now, well, typically we go to a lot of restaurants, you know, bars. We love going to different coffee shops, that sort of thing. Right now, it's a little different but it's great. I mean, we go walk around every day. We walk down to the river. It's lovely. There's a lot of people out. Everyone's really respectful. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's social distancing. You have a strong, like, community vibe that we're all in this together. So it's actually been, I'm very thankful I live downtown right now.
Good to hear.
Hey, cool. Jay,
Yes.
Dave told me once that you did a funny news related video series. What is that? Can I see it somewhere?
Yes, you can. It's called Uncle Jay Explains the News. It began in the mid-90s. Actually, I did it on Channel 9 for about 2 years. I won an Emmy. I'm the only radio person that's ever won an Emmy. And then around the year 2007, I realized that technology had gotten to the point where I could do it myself. And I produced it for about 8 or 9 years from my basement every Monday. And they're all still on YouTube. If you go to Uncle Jay Explains, channel Uncle Jay Explains, you can see me making jokes about President Bush if you want to.
The first one or the second one?
What was that?
Was that the first one or the second one? How long
The
ago
second
was
one.
it?
Bush and then Obama, and I didn't get as far as Trump.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't be able to retire.
Yeah, right.
Right. Okay, we ready for the next one? For Bridget. If it's okay to ask, Bridget, is your wig made of human hair?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Do you have a lot of them?
I have about 4 dozen wigs.
Wow.
Some human hair, all different lengths, all different colors. For tonight, I wore my really good hair, my best wig for you guys.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank
It did
you.
look great. Scott Howell had a question. I gotta ask it for Scott. Scott's a regular at True Theater. He's told stories a couple of times. He comes to all the auditions. We all love Scott. And it's, hey Jay, tell us about Bras Against Saint Gregory. Wasn't there a song that went with it?
It was called Bras Across St. Gregory, and it happened around the time of Hands Across America, and it was not my idea. It was one of the DJs there was a guy named Steve Cage. It was his idea, and it was when WEBN was in Mount Adams on St. Gregory Street, and I think it actually did raise some money for breast cancer research. And they had people send in bras, and we, strung them across the street because we're WEBN.
Across the street.
Yeah.
We're going to get enough to go across America.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay. Bridget, I got another question for you from Debbie.
Okay.
Great stories. Love them all. Thank you, Debbie. Kudos to Jim and Bridget for being themselves. Actually, Jim is involved with Oh, I'm sorry. It was Jim. I don't know how. Again, I can't see the screen. Jim,
Yes.
how can I talk to an alcoholic and encourage them to quit before they hit rock bottom?
Wow. Is not easy at all, because the thing about being an alcoholic, because I had tried before it actually took, I had tried a couple times quitting for people. I mean, I was going with a woman. I tried to quit for her. I tried to quit for my family. And until you're actually ready to quit for yourself, it's probably not going to take. What I would advise, though, is for this person to get involved with Al-Anon, because that is an organization for people who are family of or friends of people who are alcoholic, and that will help them learn how to cope with having a loved one who's an alcoholic. And maybe if that person sees that you're involved in that, you can discuss what you're getting out of that with them, and maybe it'll kind of sink in. Maybe I should do something for myself.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that's thank you. I think everybody would like to know, have everyone has questions like that. I got a two-parter for Tim here. First, Tim from Taylor, have you tried to reconnect with your friend?
Have not. So like I said, it was a pretty difficult time, and that just kind of went this way, and that was it. No, I'm not.
Okay, well, in follow-up, did Mike's parents ever find out about what he did with the shotgun and the shells, or did you get away with using those scot-free?
Totally got away with it, I think. Yeah, they both worked, so it was kind of unusual at the time for us mom and dad both to work. So there was an empty house. That's why we were able to do the experiment in the garage. They never knew, not at all. No.
Okay. Any comments, cast?
Roger, did you even think for a minute that you could blow your fingers off while you're trying to take the buckshot out of the...
Right?
I know. I was.
You'll put your eye out, kid.
You started talking about a gun and blanks, and I'm like, oh my God, where is this story going?
I was like, oh my God, 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 run.
Right.
You only tested it.
Bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, only tested it once. Yeah.
What?
It was super. Yeah, it was super scientific because it was against that piece of newspaper on the wall. So nothing could have gone wrong from there.
Yeah, crazy.
Real crazy. Oh, Bridget, here's one I think people would want to know. My son and his friend, and this is from Debbie, by the way, my son and his friend want to donate their hair. Recommendations on where to donate?
I have no idea because I don't have any hair to donate. I have heard like Locks of Love. I've heard, but I'm not sure because I don't have any hair to donate.
Yeah. My wife has donated to Locks of Love in the past.
Maybe Jim can fill this one. Locks of Love.
I think a lot of places accept colored hair now too. They used to only accept non-colored hair, but I think a lot of places accept colored hair. So, oops.
You've got a visitor.
You know, it's really funny that we were thinking about directing that question to Bridget, but that makes more sense to direct it.
It does. Yeah, I kind of looked right at her as Bridget was talking. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. She would know that.
You know, usually people come in with like their own idea of where they want to donate it because there's so many different places. So I say get on Google, find the charity that suits you, and
go for it. Yeah. Well, Laura, Jenny here is curious. Did your eye doctor see through your lies? And I can't. Oh, and give you clear lenses. Yeah, that's what it
did. Yeah, for sure. He actually was the one who told my mom to just give me the fake glasses. So this must have not been the first. I guess he told my mom, you can just give her, you know, some fake glasses. She'll get over it. See what happens.
Okay.
Somebody said on the chat that Pantene accepts hair.
Yeah, I was just
Lots of
reading
love
that
is only
myself.
kid. Yeah, lots
Oh,
of love.
that's interesting. I never, okay.
You know, lots of love
Um,
children. I didn't know that.
yeah, I didn't either. Jay, I'm supposed to ask you about the dress code story.
In the Gene Jenkins commercial.
Oh, and there, yes,
Right.
Gene Jenkins, yes.
One of the Gene Jenkins commercials I didn't play, and let me mention again, all the commercials I talk about and more, if you go to CincinnatiMagazine.com and do a search on the words Plummet Mall, you'll get a lot more detail about the story and links to those commercials. So one of the Gene Jenkins commercials, he said, I know people are upset about some of my proposals. For instance, the state dress code that I proposed is going to attract employers who are sensitive to fashionable employees. But it's a reasonable plan because the spot inspections will only take place in the workplace and never in the home. So it's a very reasonable plan.
Reasonable man, Gene
Yeah.
Jenkins.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Dave, and I mean, I know the answer to this, but I'll give it to Dave. From Tyler, our buddy Tyler. What are the themes for next season?
Great question. We're not ready to tell you yet. I have an idea on what they may be, but I got to run them up the flagpole a little bit, give them a little bit more thought, but I promise you as soon as we have, typically we would announce them at the next show. Given that everything is different right now, we may come out with them earlier, but as soon as we do, we will be broadcasting them loud and wide and be accepting submissions for all of them. So keep an eye out on our website. We have a mailing list. You go there, you can sign up, and we will alert people to it. And also like us on Facebook, where we're probably the most prolific with information.
Okay. Oh, Joan Hoxie just wants to say happy anniversary. It's our 10th anniversary.
We love
I'm
you.
sure Dave mentioned earlier, and that this was a great show.
Joan has shared a story on our
time
stage.
we've done it this way. I am tickled pink, actually, and it was a lot of
Joan
fun.
told 3 stories on the True Theater stage over the years.
Yeah.
She is wonderful. She's like family now.
What other parodies did Jay sneak by the people of Cincinnati on the air?
Well, we did a lot of song parodies and fake commercials, but with the exception of Plummet Mall, they were pretty obviously fake, and everybody knew that we were having a good time. You know, at WEBN for years, we ran commercials for a beer called Tree Frog Beer.
Yep, I remember that.
And their slogan was, doesn't taste like much, but it gets you there faster.
Yes.
My brother did know someone that said, I've looked all over town for that. I can't find it anywhere.
Oh, I so remember.
By the way, there was someone out there. There was someone who created a real product called Tree Frog Wine, and we shut him down.
That's not surprising. And I remember I had a Tree Frog T-shirt. Yeah. I don't know where it is now, but I remember I got a T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of questions for Jay, it seems, but he's, you know.
They want to know all those WEBNs.
No, Jay.
If we don't get to every question here, we'll be posting the ones we don't answer on our Facebook page.
Yeah, I think I think I'm scrolling through. I think I've gotten everything. Yeah, that's going to be it, I think, for our Q&A, Dave.
Well, why don't I just wrap it up here for everybody. Folks, thank you so much again for joining us. You know, there are a lot of arts organizations out there trying something like this or some form of entertainment to provide to try to keep their lights on and their doors open until they could resume having in-person audience members or clients, and we hope you'll support all of them. If you'd like to support us, you could contribute to our 10 for 10 campaign by texting TRUE10 to 44321. That number couldn't be easier to remember. 44321. Just text TRUE10. The number is 10 TRUE10, and you have an option to contribute 10 or whatever you want to donate. We'd really appreciate it. Of course, we're just thrilled that you've stuck around this long to hear all these stories and to participate in the Q&A. We can't wait to go back and review the Facebook feed and see what you all were saying then. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank the Storytellers again, and everybody who's working hard behind the scenes to make this work. Listen, we're going to be part of the Fringe Festival for sure. True Suffrage is going to happen in one way or another. Season 11 is right around the corner. So whether we see you at the Fringe Festival or one of the shows after that, until we see you again, stay safe, stay connected, and stay true. Good night.
Good night.